Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates.
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening, I'm Nana Aquia, and this is Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition.
Seen this established growing axis of aggression, haven't we, between Russia and Iran? We've seen the way that Russia has fired nearly 60,000 Iranian-style drones into Ukraine, and we see from Iran some of the same tactics we see from Russia in Iran.
As Defence Secretary John Healey sounds the alarm on Iran potentially working with Russia, The Guardian leads on hidden hand of Putin aids Iran's tactics. Also,
the reason that money was paid out at all was because the alternative was a potentially costly legal battle that would have cost the taxpayer even more than that sum of money. I hope Peter Mandelson will do the right thing and either return it or, better still, donate it to charity, but that's why a payment was made at all.
He's not going to give it back, is he? As pressure builds on the government over Peter Mandelson, The Telegraph leads on I take responsibility for Mandelson's appointment, but
he stood in Parliament and said he didn't know the full extent of Peter Mandelson's relationship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and those papers show that he did know, that he was warned.
The Express leads, Kemi, it stinks of a cover-up by this lying Prime Minister. Also,
and before we begin, I want to send our love to the Michigan Jewish community and all of the people in Detroit area following the attack.
It's the anti-Semitic rampage that has rocked America as a truck laden with explosives ploughed into a synagogue in Michigan. With anti-Jewish incidents rising across the globe, how do we keep our Jewish communities safe? Joining me this evening, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Labour advisor Matthew Laza and comedian Archie Manners. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you, and a very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 11. Well, missile interceptions are continuing to light up the night sky over Tel Aviv, with air defences from Israel shooting down incoming Iranian missiles. Well, that latest barrage comes amid the ongoing US-Israeli war with Iran now approaching its second week. The fighting is also spreading across the Gulf, with 2 tankers today hit near Iraq and a container ship struck near the United Arab Emirates. Iranian forces have claimed responsibility for at least 1 attack. Earlier, Iran's new supreme leader vowed to keep using what he called the lever of blocking the Strait of Hormuz and promised to avenge the blood of Iranians killed in the conflict. But President Donald Trump says the United States has already won the war with Iran, though he insists the operation still needs to be finished. Well, staying with news regarding that conflict with Iran, the United States military has confirmed in the last hour that one of its aircraft that was presumed missing has now been confirmed as crashed in Iraq during operations in the region. US Central Command saying that a KC-135 refueling plane went down in western Iraq after what it describes as an incident involving 2 aircraft. One of the aircraft was lost while the second did land safely. The military, though, says rescue efforts are underway in what it calls friendly airspace, but added the crash was not caused by hostile or friendly fire. So we will keep across developments as that rescue effort is underway. Turning to news in the United States, and police there say a suspected attacker is dead after a vehicle rammed into a synagogue in Michigan. Authorities say the driver crashed into Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, forcing the vehicle through the doors and down a hallway inside the building before it caught fire. Officials say the building was engulfed in flames, with around 30 police officers now being treated for smoke inhalation. The FBI says it's investigating the incident as a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community. And staying in the United States, police say a campus shooting in Virginia today is now being investigated as terrorism. One person was killed, 2 others left injured when a gunman opened fire inside a classroom at Old Dominion University. The attacker is now dead. The FBI has said brave students stepped in to stop the attacker. Actions officials say saved lives. Well, investigators have now revealed more about what they believe and who they believe carried out the attack. Here's Special Agent from the FBI in Norfolk, Dominique Evans.
The FBI is now the lead investigative agency investigating this as an act of terrorism. The shooter has been identified as Mohammed Baylor Jallow. In 2016, Jallow was arrested and pled guilty for attempting to provide material support to ISIL, now known as ISIS.
And turning to news here at home, yet another breaking development. A 15-year-old boy has been charged with attempted murder after yesterday a teenage girl was stabbed at a secondary school near Norwich. Officers were called to Thorpe St Andrews on Wednesday morning after reports a pupil had been attacked. The suspect, who cannot be named for legal reasons, has also been charged with possessing a knife on school premises. The girl suffered minor injuries and has since been discharged from hospital. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from the newsroom 9:30 tomorrow morning. Now, though, let's get straight back to Nana.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good evening, welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Let's take a look at tomorrow's front pages. On the front cover of The Times, it leads with Iranian drones directed by hidden hand of Putin. The Guardian, hidden hand of Putin aids Iran's tactics, says Healy. Telegraph, Russia behind attack on UK troops. The Eye, the oil war. UK military prepared to defend tankers in the Middle East. The Independent, Iran targets our troops as the UK sets sights on vital Strait of Hormuz. The Sun, Brit base blitzed by Iran. And the Mirror, Middle East crisis escalates. On the front cover of the Daily Express, Kemi, it stinks of a cover-up by the lying Prime Minister. The Daily Mail, Kemi, PM's told lie after lie after lie. The Metro, fake and ladders. And let's get the thoughts of my panel, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, Matthew Laza, and also Archie Manners. Right, so what should we start with on here? Should we look at let's talk about Iran targets our troops as UK sets sights on the Strait of Hormuz, because that is a very worrying thing, really. The Strait of Hormuz, all our oil prices are now going up. I think it's, what is it? It's gone over $100 a barrel.
It's very expensive, yeah. Someone suggested on Twitter today that we should just make the barrels smaller, and that would make it cheaper, which I thought was very, very, very clever. But yes,
the wisdom of social media.
The wisdom of social media. Yes.
So clever,
Yes. Why are the barrels so big? Trump seems very relaxed about the price. It's a small price to pay for war, which he thinks he's winning. And, of course, the Supreme Leader has released a statement today but has not shown his face on the grounds that it would get blown up by Netanyahu. So it's all going Iran, isn't it?
Or maybe it has already been blown up by Netanyahu. We don't actually know whether he's... They've said that he's sort of...
alive. No one's actually seen him.
He is rumoured to be... to have had a leg amputated and to be in a coma. And so he's obviously seriously ill in hospital.
It should be easy to spot if he's got a leg amputated. I mean, that's...
Well, I don't know.
Hopping around, isn't it?
But I think... That's presumably why he hasn't actually come out and made this statement verbally, but we shall see.
I mean, do we think he actually is in charge or alive?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Or, I mean, because if he's in a coma, he's not particularly in charge.
No.
I mean, if my boss was in a coma, I'd take a much more relaxed attitude to work, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Well, maybe the Iranians will take a much more relaxed attitude.
I don't know. I suspect they'll be even more hardcore because the IRGC is really organised. It's not like there's one person in charge, that one person is the only person that's there. They have... It's been structured, there's layers, it's intertwined into society.
Yeah, they're disciplined. They're the elite troops.
It's a proper organisation run properly.
And that's the difference from Venezuela, where they kind of, although, you know, they had somebody they thought they could do, or they have proved they can do business with, this is the Americans, thought in the deputy, there is no obvious person to take over, and therefore everybody who is left is you know, particularly outraged as their friends and family have been
This is Trump's problem, right? I mean, the guy who's now in charge has had his wife, his child, and his parents killed. Now, I don't like all my family, and some of them I'd love to have taken out, but if you did all of that, I'm not likely to love you. I'm going to be pretty peed off, I'd imagine.
Well, you know, but and I'm not saying that he's upset and everything, but the mindset there is they're martyrs, these people have died for the good of Iran and blah, blah, blah. So their whole sort of outlook is it's a death cult, isn't it, really? You die and you've done something good.
That'll be the public statement, but at the end of the day, he is a human being. And I think if you've had your kid killed... This is a kid by which he came to England for 10 months and stayed in a five-star hotel to have, because his wife at the time had fertility issues. So he went to great lengths to have the child. I think you'd be pretty angry.
Would he be angry, but he would be looking at it in a different way?
You're right. You could look at it in a different way, and you could see that as a sort of martyrdom. But that can coexist with seeking vengeance.
It's not one or the other, exactly. They're not mutually exclusive. He's still a human being, precisely. Yes, he can think that they'll be in heaven with 40 virgins or whatever it is that they believe, but which is probably inappropriate for a 3-year-old. I think he's only 3.5. But he, as you say, it could be the same thing.
But also, let's remember that Trump sort of refused to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Yet he is the person who is sort of initiating this war alongside Israel.
Yeah, and he's been saying today that it's doing well for America because it's such a big oil producer, that it's good business, which I don't think...
You've got to love him.
Many people, particularly in Europe, who are going to be paying the price. Yeah. I think it's interesting that it looks like the government is trying to get its act together and get on the front foot and say it's going to take the lead in escorting ships through the Straits.
We can't even send our own ship at...
Well,
it's taking 10 days.
More.
It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing.
It really is. This HMS Dragon thing.
It has been a human.
I've got it. HMS Drag On.
Yeah, HMS Drag On. But it's a humiliation, not actually as much as I love hitting Matthew for being a left-wing loser. It is an embarrassment on all the houses of this country, all the political parties.
Yeah, of course.
This is a procurement problem for most of my lifetime, clearly.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Utterly shameful.
Decades.
Someone told me yesterday we don't technically have an army. We have a standing force because you need, in order for it to be an army, you need 100,000 troops.
Yeah, we
couldn't fill Wembley.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
Quite a few stadiums.
I mean, you have to laugh because otherwise you cry, but it's disgraceful.
Well, one of the reasons for Drag On was...
I think this is going to catch on.
Was because apparently the people doing the refit aren't allowed to do overtime.
They're not allowed to work nights.
Yeah, so they can't work nights.
DEI, of course, has come into play.
Come on, if we at GBNews can work up between 11 and 12, you can be doing the same thing. We don't get overtime.
It is just shocking, but the thing is, how do we look to the rest of the world that we had one ship that we couldn't decide whether we're going to join in or not? We've got one ship that we had to drag on because it's got scaffold and all sorts of other things going on with it. We can't get the crew. It's just the rest of the world are looking and laughing. The French are just making us look even worse by supplying even more, and we are...
Oh, they'll be useless, though, won't they?
Yeah, they might be.
It's all very well. The French are going. They'll look good now. They'll be French. It's not going to happen.
No, he's joking.
I'm not. GBNews, I'm allowed to make that joke.
Well, you should be. Yes.
We can always have a battle on the French, can't we? Surely.
This one on the front cover of the Metro, fakes and ladders.
Good headline.
Tradesmen forced to quit work after Fall is on a mission. I don't really get this one.
So people buying substandard ladders.
Oh,
yeah, on allegedly on some of the sites like Amazon, Shein and Temu are the ones mentioned, which are particularly marketplaces where you can get some great legit things, but there are also things that some shonky goods.
So what constitutes a fake ladder?
So apparently
it's not a complicated thing to make.
The one that you step on and then
basically it doesn't do what it should do. It breaks.
It doesn't elevate a human being up. What else is it meant to do?
Of course.
Once you're elevated, you come down with a tumble.
So you come down, yeah.
I think all power to the Metro, though, for actually finding a story which does kind of resonate, and it's got a really smart headline. Because sometimes newspapers just have to find the niche. You know, that's how they build an identity.
And they've done an investigation. Apparently, there are still 100 of these ladders available,
and they're very dangerous.
And Rich said that Rich says there are over 100 available still on those sites, and 14 were fraudulently marketed.
Right, let's get back.
It's not major news, though, is it? I mean, you say all power to the Metro. There are 100 ladders being sold that might not be good. There's also like a war in Iran and a massive economic crisis. If I was the editor of the Metro, I might have gone on that first.
I tell you what, if one person died, one British person died falling off one of those ladders, I guarantee you it would be more than one front page.
That's true, but they haven't yet, thankfully.
All right, let's go to the front cover of the Daily Mail. Kemi Badenoch says Prime Minister told lie after lie after lie. So she's not even mincing her words here at all. She's making it clear that she's accusing Keir Starmer of lying about Peter Mandelson's appointment amid growing claims of a cover-up. The Tory leader demanded a sleaze inquiry into whether Sir Keir Starmer misled MPs over the disastrous decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as US ambassador, and she claimed that the incriminating documents were removed from this week's Mandelson files to avoid further damage to the Prime Minister's battered reputation. That's quite something to be accusing that.
Absolutely. I think it's all about a box. So in one of the documents, which is the advice that went to the Prime Minister, there's the box in which the Prime Minister can write his comments. There is nothing in that box.
It's literally the red box. So they redacted the comments that he would have done from his red box.
Yes.
Then every night the Prime Minister gets a stack of paperwork.
They claim that that he didn't actually write on it and there are no comments redacted. And because obviously sometimes he doesn't write on it, he can say it verbally, etc. So that's what number 10 say. Kemi's insisting that she thinks there's something fishy, and why is that box blank?
But Kemi, I think, must have changed what she eats for breakfast, because she seems to be getting, I was about to say ballsier and ballsier, which is probably the wrong way of putting it, but she really is getting powerful and getting strong. I mean, her Prime Minister's questions performances are getting better and better.
Do you know what, though? I think
this week was terrible.
It was a bit disappointing. You know why it was disappointing? Because they were both talking about completely separate things.
Two radios.
For the average member of the public watching that, they wouldn't have been able to work out what was going on.
That's what I said. I said it didn't make sense. She asked the same question repeatedly about fuel duty. Fuel duty. And the thing is, if you're listening, and I did say, to listeners and viewers, because I was on Good Afternoon Britain afterwards, if you're listening, you're only hearing her talk about a fuel duty increase promised in September. That doesn't really resonate with you, because you're thinking, well, that's September. Why is she going on about it? And that didn't really...
And we don't know what's going to happen to petrol
prices in the meantime. The only response she got from the Prime Minister was about the war. So he's talking about the war, she's talking about petrol.
But he also kept going on, they've been fixed till September. And it was like... this is not really going anywhere.
We learned yesterday that Lady Rothermere, whose husband owns the Daily Mail, has been given money to the Reform Party. So for Kemi to get that kind of headline from his own newspaper, 2 days running, is quite impressive for her. So that's the bit that I find kind of interesting. It's a little bit in the weeds there, I appreciate, but it is interesting that the owner of the Daily Mail is publicly funding reform. The Daily Mail has said, and of course he would say it's editorial independence.
But do you think that this is enough to sort of potentially be the end for Keir Starmer? Or do you think people might go, oh, well, he made the right decision about the war, and that's more important than...
But Hassan, what I can't work out is what he's actually got right. I mean, you know that the phrase "a broken clock is right twice" doesn't even apply to him. He's not even been right twice. I don't...
I just think... I mean,
here we go. Come on, gloves off, Hazard.
As you may suspect. I mean, I think, there are some who argue... I think he's doing it because he believes it's the right thing to do, and I agree it is the right thing to do, as does the vast majority in every poll, not just here, but in every European country and in America, which is to not get involved in the actual attack phase.
But that wasn't his initial...
Well, it wasn't his initial thing, but let me say that where the general public is concerned, they start off maybe a bit gung-ho, let's get behind our boys, let's get behind the troops. And as the days pass on, invariably they start to think, actually, this might not be such a good idea.
Yeah, that's definitely happening in America.
And it's definitely happening here. It's because they've seen the bodies come home.
And the prices go up.
You know, and I think it's happening here as well. And in a way, Keir Starmer's quite fortunate that the public opinion has actually come alongside him now, because there was a big disparity to start with.
And the question will be whether, in fact, that if the war carries on over weeks, that it may overshadow any losses, well, not any losses, the expected losses in the Scottish, Welsh and local elections.
I don't think it will, though. By then it'll be 8 weeks. The press will be war-weary too, particularly if we're not involved.
Well,
so it'll just be a case of...
We are involved, though. I mean, did you see the Lego figures? They had, did you see the Lego? The Iranian propaganda? It had a British flag and it said British forces. So even if we don't think we're involved, we are, and they think we are, so there's no...
We are, but not to the extent that we were a part of the initial strikes.
I don't think it makes a difference.
I don't think
maybe it does make a difference.
No, I don't think it will make a difference, but because I think what people will feel is the pain of this, the economic, the financial pain of this. They'll feel it in their wallets, and that will get worse.
And to the Iranians, although the bases are being used by American planes, they're taking off on British soil, so therefore that makes Britain a target, even if, you know, we...
from that point of view, they still want to bomb the...
I
was about to say a rude word.
It's still been bombed from Britain, even if it's not by Britain.
Let's not forget that the Exchequer makes a lot of money out of fuel if the prices go high. So I don't think President Trump is that upset about it. And I wouldn't want to speculate about our government, but, you know, they're making quite a bit of money out of it. But now it's time for our biggest Great British giveaway of the year so far. Your chance to drive away with a brand new camper van worth £67,000 and a further £25,000 in tax-free cash. Here are the details you need.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000 and it could be all yours in our very latest Great British giveaway. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this latest 2026 model comes fully loaded with everything you'd expect. You can even drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, it comfortably sleeps 4 people. Make sure you don't miss out on the biggest prize package of the year so far. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Coming up, the latest updates after an attack on a synagogue in Michigan. We'll be speaking to former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, Jake Wallace-Simons. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
If you want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power, Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Ask you though about this measles increase and why it is happening, why this outbreak, and why so many people are unvaccinated.
Well, it's a worry. Measles is not a trivial infection, as you well know. It can cause nasty illnesses.
Did you have it as a kid?
I did.
Yeah,
I did,
as well,
and my son had it as well.
But Ellie hasn't.
No, I was vaccinated.
Good.
As a
well,
newborn.
vaccination is very, very effective and very safe, and most children are vaccinated now. But we've had falling rates of vaccination in the last decade, particularly in some areas of the country where it's gone gone down to below where Afghanistan and Malawi's vaccination rates are recorded at. So this is a worry, because unless you're vaccinating 95% of children, the risk of an outbreak is very strong. And that's happening now in Enfield and other places in North London. 34 children have come down with measles already. One infected child can spread it to 18 others. They'll have to be off school for up to 21 days, which is the incubation period.
So long.
But most importantly, measles can kill people. It can cause meningitis, it can cause pneumonia, it can cause ear infections. It's not always a trivial illness. At the best of times, it causes fever, it causes earache, a streaming nose, a raging sore throat. It's horrible. Nobody needs it. But we've got vaccine hesitancy because it's easy to scare people about vaccine.
Well, how do you unscare people? How do you take that hesitancy away?
What you need to do is to get into communities and explain why vaccination is safe and effective, how 100 years ago, 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 died of these common infections, and we've eradicated all that, or we should have eradicated it all.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB Loyalty Points is here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB Loyalty Points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Nana Akweer. Now, a gunman crashed an explosive-filled truck into the Temple Israel Synagogue in Michigan before he opened fire. Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard confirmed a man armed with a rifle was found dead inside the vehicle and his body was badly burnt. And this comes as 2 months ago the same synagogue appeared to undergo active shooter prevention training, according to Instagram. With record anti-Semitic incidents being regularly reported, just how do we keep the Jewish community safe during this period of anxiety? Well, joining me is Telegraph columnist and author Jake Wallace-Simons. Jake, you as Jewish people are well aware of this risk and have been protecting themselves for decades, really.
That's right. I mean, there's a particular threat in America, not just from the Islamists, of course, but also from the far right. There was a shooting carried out by the far right just a few years ago in that synagogue that Barry Weiss, the US journalist, attended. But this, it's too early to say who the shooter was, but it seems like he was taken out pretty efficiently by the security guards guarding the synagogue. And as in America and here, security is extremely tight around synagogues in a way that no other minority has to deal with in their day-to-day lives. Jews are, protected by airport-style security at synagogues, at schools, and at community centres. It's just a sad sign of the times as to how far the West has descended down the route of anti-Semitism.
I just find it quite shocking that this level of visceral hatred of Jewish people. I really don't get it. For me, the Jewish people have been some of the nicest people I've ever met, and it's a really deep-rooted hate, isn't it? Why is that? I don't really understand.
Well, of course, anti-Semitism is an extremely old phenomenon, stretching all the way back to the New Testament and the idea that the Jews killed the Son of God. That's what animated it in the early few centuries in the Christian West. After that, it took on a different scientific turn as the ages wore on. Under Hitler, it was a sort of scientific matter, a pseudoscience, a racial matter, that Jews were an inferior race scientifically. and needed to be exterminated for that reason. And these days it's more political. You know, it's associated with Israel. Israel is subjected to the same sorts of slurs and smears that have been directed at Jews for centuries and centuries, particularly the baby killer smear. That's something that stretches back to Norwich in 1144 when a Christian child, William, was found dead and it was blamed unfairly on the Jews. So these tropes have existed for a long, long time. They're not going anywhere fast. But I think that what we're seeing right now is a particularly dangerous moment where there's a high degree of tolerance towards anti-Semitism in our societies, because we kind of feel that it's okay, it's just that they only hate Zionists, they don't hate Jews. So once again, anti-Semitism has found a way, found language that allows it to pose as if it was a virtue rather than another form of racism. You know, anti-Semitism really is the only racism that the left in particular is able to have with impunity these days. In fact, it's racism that makes them feel less racist because they're so convinced that the Jews are evil that hating them is a mark of virtue rather than a mark of bigotry. And that's been a hallmark of anti-Semitism throughout the ages too.
Well, as we speak, I mean, there was armed police at a synagogue in Norway. So it's just become almost like a cancer that just keeps spreading and spreading, and people are getting even more extreme with how they're treating the Jewish community. I just listening to what you said, I just don't. I'm glad you explained that, because a lot of people listening going, why is there so much? Why is this going on? But then if we think about even this weekend, like the Al-Quds protest, now that's going to be a static protest rather than a moving one, and it's but Shabbat Mahmoud has allowed pro-Palestine protests. So some people would say that that again is something that could encourage anti-Semitism, even though it's a static protest. Again, it's a whole Palestinian thing, which is, again, there's a lot of anti-Semitism in that.
Yeah, I think we're tying ourselves in knots as a society, trying to maintain the principles of an open, tolerant society and all the principles of a liberal democracy that we all love and adhere to, in the context of a group of people in our country who've come from outside, who are bent upon using those freedoms to overturn our freedoms, using our own liberal values to overturn them, to subvert them, and to bring us down. And that's what's happening. And we're really unsure of how to deal with it. You know, for the last 2 or 3 years, since October the 7th, the incessant anti-Semitism on our streets has been looked upon with tolerance, as if everyone simply has the right to express themselves. But what we haven't realised is that the Jews are first in the firing line, but who they're really coming for is us in our society. We saw the very day after that shameful Gorton and Denton by-election that was won by the Greens by pandering to the Islamist vote, the very next day they defaced the statue of Winston Churchill with anti-Semitic slogans, globalise the Intifada, Zionist war killer, and all the rest of it. That's Winston Churchill. There could be no more important symbol of Britain, modern symbol of Britain, for that statue of Winston Churchill. So they hate the Jews, but underneath it all, they hate us. And unless we get strong and begin to wake up and stop these people in their tracks, if we're going to continue tolerating them and tolerating them and tolerating them, sooner or later, we'll find that it's a problem that we cannot solve, and it brings us down.
Well, it's a mission creek, isn't it? It's happening very slowly and subtly, and suddenly you've got a pro-Palestine march with a space where Jewish people can't enter because they're fearful of their lives, and then the police can't control it, and that is a worry. But as the Greens would argue that they are simply putting forward policies that are popular and not pandering to the Islamist vote. But thank you very much, Jake Wallace-Simon. It's really good to talk to you. Let's see what my panel think of that. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Dewberry, former Labour advisor Matthew Laza, and comedian Archie Manners. What do you think? Matthew Laza, starting with you.
In terms of...
Well, what Jake has just said in terms of, you know, the whole sort of Palestine situation.
Sorry, yeah. Just sort of... Yeah, I mean, I think that we all politicians need to make a broad appeal as possible. And I think that we have such a fractured politics at the moment that people think they have easy answers. I mean, you know, the Greens are a classic example. Even if, you know, we take them at their word and they're not pandering, they say they're not pandering to the Islamist vote, they do clearly think that by sticking on a Palestinian scarf and a watermelon on your Insta profile, you're going to change the situation in Gaza. And very sad to say that Denton and Gorton, get it right? Gorton and Denton happened, and it didn't make a blind bit of difference to the situation, and therefore frustration builds even further, and people just go crazy. And social media fuels this in terms of people living inside bubbles where they see posts from people who believe exactly the same as them, and those views are not challenged, and nobody says, stop a second, understand your anger, but where is it really going?
But I think Jake raised a really important point about liberal tolerance and about how that had been subverted. And I think that that is true. We've always been, to my mind, a tolerant and liberal country, and we think that everybody's like that. The thing is that everybody is not like that. I also think it's a numbers situation. I think there are fewer than 400,000 Jews in the United Kingdom, and there are now close to 4 million Muslims. Now, I'm not saying one is good and one is bad. I'm not having that kind of argument at all. But I'm saying when the numbers are set that way, we will get a problem if there's an intolerant environment.
I think that's true, and I was relieved to see that, for the first time in a decade, the Metropolitan Police have been given permission to ban a protest this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Home Secretary had to sign off, which was a pro-Palestine protest, which previously has got quite violent. It's tragic that we now live in a world where that is the case, where, you know, we can't have people protesting about the state of Gaza in a non-violent way, and that we can't have people going to a synagogue in a peaceful way and not feeling threatened.
Yeah, because it's the reason why they took that decision, the police went with that recommendation and the government took that decision, is because it's in the context of the current environment.
Precisely, and yeah. I just think that's incredibly... I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I feel like when I was growing up in the sort of 90s and early noughties, this wasn't the case. We didn't have the... Maybe I'm looking back with rose-tinted glasses, and you'll correct me, but... It just seems incredibly sad that we live in this kind of increasingly secular world where we aren't, as you say, we're not as tolerant as we think we are, or as we like to think we are.
I think Matthew made a really good point about the internet. Is that, you know, you're able to mobilise whatever it is you want to mobilise using the internet in large numbers and be coordinated with it, which is a problem. But I'm going to come back to what you said, Archie, about the protest which has been banned, the Al-Quds. It hasn't really been banned, has it? They can do a static protest, and pro-Palestinian protests are fine. So... is it really...
Well, they should have the right... People that are pro-Palestine should have the right to protest, right?
Yeah,
I don't care what you think, you should have the right to protest, just whether I agree with you or not.
Well, this is the problem, though, and it's exactly what Wallace Simons was saying, that that's all very well, but then there's the point where it's not really working, is it? I mean...
Well, it's not working...
Is it?
Well, time will tell if that static protest...
It would be dangerous to do that now.
Yes.
That's the context we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be sleeper cells, as we know. Apparently, there are sleeper cells and people are being told to go out and harm certain targets in the West and everything else. I think you could potentially be setting yourself up for a lot of trouble if you carry on enabling these protests, even though...
Yeah. And there are going to be two protests either side of the river, so the static protests are going to be glaring at each other.
And Oxford and Cambridge going through the middle of them down the river.
Yeah, perfect. Right, stay with us. Coming up, all the latest headlines. And is the BBC out of touch? Of course they are. Their Director-General seems to think so. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Hello again. Wind and rain will clear overnight, followed by colder air from the north-northwest, with a mix of rain, hail and even some snow showers by dawn. Now we've got low pressure, a deep low over Iceland, and that's pushing this active cold front through. It's bringing a spell of heavy rain to many parts of central and southern UK during the evening. It then clears after several hours of wet and windy weather, but following on, colder winds blow in, frequent showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, but some showers reaching Western England and Wales. A much colder feel to begin Friday. Enough of a breeze to prevent a widespread frost, but there will be some snow in places, most especially central Scotland, where above 350 metres, there's the risk of 10 centimetres of snow by dawn. Could cause some disruption, hence the snow and ice warning. At lower levels, a patchy centimetre or two possible early Friday because of these frequent showers coming in. And these showers across many northern and western parts of the UK will bring a real mixture of rain, hail and even some snow, although any lying snow tending to be restricted, like I say, to northern hills, especially as we go through the day on Friday and it warms up ever so slightly. But not much warmth coming through because this cold wind will carry with it frequent showers, especially in the north and the west. Some sunshine in between, certainly brighter skies, even if not entirely sunny, but temperatures some degrees down on previous days. We're talking about 6 to 9 Celsius. Saturday starts off cold, some icy patches in places, and lighter winds compared with Friday. Actually, Saturday on a whole is looking brighter and less unsettled, but there'll be further showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland, one or two further south. And then into Sunday, the cloud increases once again. Spells of rain move in from the west, but it does turn a little bit less cold.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Major.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. I'm Nana O'Quare. Now, BBC Director General Tim Davie has admitted that the BBC has a metropolitan lens on life that can mean it doesn't get how Britain thinks. Really? He insisted, however, that claims of bias are exaggerated and often exploited by critics. Panel, do you agree? Linda Jubilee.
Well, I agree with him. But what I want to know is why he didn't do anything about it when he was in charge. He was in the plum role where he could have made a real difference to the BBC, and he did nothing. There's no point in complaining about it now. Stable door, horse, bolted.
Well, he's out, isn't he? He's out. I think the BBC has a difficult role because what they do is they have all their command and control in London, and then as an attempt to kind of get to other countries, they say, well, let's go and make a whole load of shows in Glasgow. And they send the same people that live in London up to Glasgow to stay in a hotel. And I've been on, in my former life, I have been on these shows, and the producers are there for 6 weeks, but they've rented out their flat in Bermondsey. It's entirely pointless.
I was up for the job of editor of Question Time, which is made by an independent company in Glasgow, and you'd have to spend one night a week in Glasgow.
Until they start getting this... Same as ITV, actually, where I was on Tonight with Trevor McDonald, and I was on that train line at that airport 3 times a week.
Yeah, and I suppose it's slightly different what I'm saying to what Tim Davie's saying, which is the kind of people that they employ. But unfortunately, the people that tend to go into media tend to be the kind of people that want to live in the capital, they are biased towards that kind of metropolitan viewpoint. So it's a struggle for them to do, but I think the very reason why you see Nigel Farage pack out Swindon tonight at his rally and have thousands of people watching online is the very reason why the BBC's viewership is going down, because they don't get out there, they don't speak to real people.
That's right, that's exactly right.
But it goes deeper than that as well, because they preach. So they're sort of telling you how you should be living or what you should be viewing or what is news and what they believe is. And they've had such a stronghold for such a long time that they don't really understand that there is opposition to their thoughts. I mean, you can imagine when GBNews came on board, was it Adam Bolton saying how they want that we need to go because we've got a nice broadcast ecology, and it was nice before somebody came in and said something different. So I think the BBC have just had it too good for too long.
What point was Adam Bolton making that a usurper had come along?
Well, he's formerly of Sky, isn't he? Yeah. So we don't want to. He's not representing the BBC.
No, but what I'm saying is it's the mindset that this is how it should be.
Hang on, but I'm trying to get to this. He is saying that GBNews came along and upset the ecology of the media system. When Sky, because Adam and I were in with the bricks there, when Sky did exactly that, when it launched as a 24-hour news channel.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
And the BBC have had it too good for too long. They don't need to fight for the money. They don't need to do anything.
No, they don't.
Their money comes in the alliance.
I think the problem with the BBC is they won't make any tough decisions. Yeah. So, I mean, the classic example is BBC, the TV channel BBC 3, which was scrapped in one great cost-cutting exercise as a TV channel and went online only and was reduced. And then suddenly they get another report from McKinsey's which says, oh, you're still not appealing to young people. So it came back as a TV channel. So it's the inability to say, we're going to do this, and this, we're going to do it really well, we're not going to do this, and this, because other people are doing it. And that, I think, is the problem problem. And that's the problem with a marketing man like Tim Davie, and there's a rumour inside the papers that a guy who ran Google in Europe, a British guy who ran Google across Europe until a year or two ago, is going to come in after him. He looks the same. He looks like a kind of marketing guy. What they need is a programme maker or a journalist who can say, we need to do some things.
Someone with the surname Attenborough or something like that would be good.
I'll take the job.
Well, speaking of the BBC, I mean, I'm grateful. They trained me and I got a lot of training out of them, and I got to go on different things like a Sound Woman thing where I was given a mentor, Martha Carney, who was amazing. I got to meet all the top people there.
They do some great things.
I think,
and the World Service is phenomenal. I just come back from India, and it's extraordinary the influence we get, the soft power we get from the World Service.
Is the problem, but the problem with them is they've got BBC this, BBC, is it One Extra or is that somewhere else?
No, you've got One Extra.
Well, hang on. Yeah, you're
BBC
right.
Asia, BBC this, BBC that. What, and that's costing a fortune. I think they've lost the plot. They've diversified into all of these corners to try and represent everybody.
Well, they tried to close the Asian network and then they U-turn. They never take a decision to stick to it.
Because they're a public service broadcaster and they're not run along commercial lines.
Exactly.
And I think the licence fee is at the heart of all of this.
Well, it's the challenge they face is that they're both trying to appeal to an audience and ensure that they get their charter renewal correct. And those two things are not the same. So if they're trying to make sure that they can retain the licence fee and keep the politicians happy...
That's what I'm saying.
That's not the same as actually appealing to what people up and down the country want to watch and listen to. So if a charter renewal say, right, you've got to have BBC Asian Network and BBC this, BBC that, in order to be diverse and whatever... Previously that would have been very helpful to them when they were looking for charter renewal. The audiences don't want that. They want Country File and whatever else.
No, they don't want that. You know, I think the BBC have misunderstood what kind of diversity means. They think it means, we need some black people and some Asian people. And what it means is diversity of thought.
Yes.
And you can get that in every culture and everything. And if you started looking, instead of ignore the colour and just focus on the different types of mindsets and different thoughts and different... Then you end up with a very eclectic mix of people and you won't have to divide it up.
Your people would end up being diverse anyway.
BBC Africa, BBC this, BBC that, BBC this... Because it's too expensive and they can't carry on like that.
Well, I mean, when I worked at a programme called On the Record, which was the sort of flagship political programme, that had the most diversity of thought because it actually recruited actively people who were political because it got the balance right. So people like Robbie Gibb, who's now on the BBC board, I was his researcher on that, and you had Labour, Lib Dem, etc. Because people actually acknowledge that people do have views, but the BBC tries to pretend that nobody has a view, and it doesn't talk about that in most recruitment processes, and therefore it ends up people all think the same.
Talking to impartiality, it's been accused of being biased the entire time. I think it's doing something right on that. I think it's 1 minute they're biased in favour of the Labour Party, then they're biased in favour of reform. I think they're actually not too biased.
Oh, I don't know about that.
But that's an unpopular view.
No, I worked for them. I'm afraid Brexit was a dirty word when I was there. And also, you could never mention climate change. Dear God, no. Don't you dare say that. But what do you think? GBNews.com/, your say. Coming up, Foreign Office staff apparently attended a party at the Iranian embassy to celebrate the Islamic Revolution. What? That and a sum of tomorrow's headlines. Stay with me. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking at the weather across southern Europe through tomorrow, and for many it's actually going to be largely dry, but not everywhere. Across Italy there will be some showery bursts, and some of these will be heavy and perhaps even thundery. And then across parts of northwest Spain, Portugal, there is a frontal system that's making its way through. That's also spreading its way southeastwards across France. And so as we head into the weekend around southeast France, northwest Italy, there's going to be some heavy thundery rain and even some mountain snow.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
How can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening and welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition. Now, the Daily Telegraph is reporting that Foreign Office staff attended a party at the Iranian embassy to celebrate the Islamic Revolution just weeks after the regime massacred thousands of its own people. Embassy officials hailed Iran's remarkable accomplishments in spite of unjust Western sanctions. And video footage shows attendees standing in silence for a rendition of Iran's national anthem. On the same day as the event, February the 12th, the US-based group Human Rights Activists News Agency announced that at least 7,000 people had been killed in Iran, including 219 children. Anti-regime campaigners previously said up to 30,000 protesters may have been murdered. And a Foreign Office spokesperson said it is the job of the Foreign Office to maintain diplomatic relations with countries across the globe, and it is standard practice as part of the engagement for the UK to be represented at these kind of National Day events. The event in question has been regularly attended by Foreign Office officials under successive governments since the Iranian embassy in London reopened in 2015. Well, let's see what my panel make of that. Journalist, broadcaster Linda Dewberry, former Labour advisor Matthew Lauser and comedian Archie Manners. Archie.
Yeah, obviously, the benefit of hindsight, it looks absolutely absurd, doesn't it? I think the issue here isn't the fact that the Iranian embassy was hosting a national party. If the ambassador and his staff want to prance around doing that, that's fine. But at a time when they were literally killing thousands of their own citizens, it looks a little bit odd for our civil servants to turn up. And the Foreign Office can say, you know, we maintain diplomatic relations, but that's an excuse that technically can get them out of absolutely any behaviour ever, right? Oh, I'm so sorry I was friends with Epstein, diplomatic relations, whatever it might be. I mean, you know, would they have said that about Hitler in '39? I mean, this is the problem. It's not an excuse that works. So I think it's a pretty poor showing. The country was under Western sanctions at the time. Part of that sanction should be we don't go to their drinks parties.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, it's one thing to say you've gone to it every year since 2015, but not every year has there been massacres of civilians in quite the same way and in the days before the party. So at the most, you should have sent one person and downgraded the presence. At the very least, if you had one person there, obviously to perhaps find out what they're saying, you know, do a bit of research, but no more than that.
Yeah, it's all timing. I mean, everyone could see what was happening on the streets of Tehran, in fact, right across the country. So bearing in mind that the party took place almost at the same time as that, Foreign Office staff shouldn't have gone.
It probably wouldn't have been a very good party anyway. It'd probably been dry, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
I mean, we're probably doing them a favour by saying don't go next time, because it would have just been a bit of apple juice and a warm biscuit.
It's a really bad look, though. It's a very bad look, though, isn't it? You know about the massacre, you've gone in there, you're supposedly celebrating, and you're saying that that's building diplomatic relations. Even the statement, I think, is a bit of a shocker. They think that that will excuse it, which sort of gives you a bit of the mindset of why maybe perhaps Keir Starmer would have something like Measles.
Also, they must have known how close we were to some kind of conflict, because remember that June last year is when those pinhead missiles went into the bunker where the nuclear weapons were allegedly being manufactured, and so that had already happened 6 months earlier. So it makes you think, what were they doing in the Foreign Office? Yes. They couldn't estimate that we were going to be into some kind of heavy-duty conflict.
Dropped the big one, as he called it, 6 months before.
It's a bit like at the end of the Second World War, when Eamon de Valera, the Irish Prime Minister, in neutral Ireland, went to pay a courtesy visit to the Irish Embassy to give his condolences on the death of Herr Hitler. Not aged well as a diplomatic nicety.
Well, do you know what? I think the civil service have got a lot to answer for. There's just too many of them anyway.
I've never counted them.
Do you know what? Do you know what I think here? I must declare an interest because my son's an economist and he's a government economist, which means that he's a civil servant. But what I want to say is we could solve a lot of issues if we tried to understand the situation. Politics come from that world. Servants come from that world. They are completely different types of people, but they have to work together and we need to fix it.
All right, let's take a look at the front covers of the papers for tomorrow. The Times, Iranian drones directed by hidden hand of Putin. On the front cover of The Guardian, hidden hand of Putin aids Iran's tactics, says Healy. The Telegraph leads with Russia behind attack on UK troops. The front cover of The Eye, the oil war, UK military preparing to defend tankers in the Middle East. The Independent, Iran targets our troops as the UK sets sights on vital Strait of Hormuz. On the front cover of The Sun, Brit base blitzed by Iran. The Mirror, Middle East crisis escalates. The Daily Express, Kemi, it stinks of a cover-up by this lying Prime Minister. The Daily Mail, Kemi, PM told after lie. The Metro, fake and ladders. Well, I've got to say thank you very much to my panel. That is all we've got time for. Up next, it's The Late Show Live, hosted by the one and only Beverly Turner.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you so much. Nice to see you. Now, we've got a big event happening today. There was a shooting, basically, at a synagogue in Michigan. We're going to be talking about that. What does that mean for sectarian politics in America as well? We had, obviously, something very similar in Manchester, didn't we, not long ago? And also the latest on the war in Iran. And Ian Paisley Jr. in the studio. See you in a minute.
Everything you need to enjoy a super summer could be on us this year, as you could drive away with this very latest Benivan 4-berth camper van. This camper van is fully equipped with its own kitchen, bathroom, dinette and plenty of storage. We'll also get your summer sorted with a further £25,000 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.
Live from Washington, D.C., I'm Bev Turner. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
I want to send our love to the Michigan Jewish community and all of the people in the Detroit area following the attack.
Breaking tonight, the suspect in an attack on a synagogue in Michigan is dead after reportedly opening fire and ramming a car filled with explosives into the building. The FBI is now investigating. Ben Leo.
A day of destruction and death on the streets of Michigan. A miracle there were no victims. The FBI saying it was a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community.
We have very good news on the war front, namely they are absolutely being destroyed. Iran is being absolutely decimated.
Tough words, of course, from President Trump, but Iran has vowed revenge. The new supreme leader threatens to avenge the death of martyrs and tells America to close its military bases in the Middle East. Meanwhile, British troops have come under attack from an Iranian drone swarm at a military base in Iraq.
Your situation is very similar. You know, you have people coming in, and I told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use.
Migrant madness, the backlog for asylum seeker appeals has hit a new record high, doubling in just 1 year, in the UK, of course, that is. I'm Bev Turner. They've sorted that problem out here in America. Let's discuss that. This is The Late Show Live. Very well, welcome to you. If you are watching in London or here in America, or wherever you watch us, actually. I'm in Washington this evening with my panel of political commentator Stephen Kent and journalist and broadcaster Angelina Mackahey. Thank you both so much for joining us this evening. And in London, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett. Matt, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're well. Right, thank you at home as well for joining us tonight. Let's move on to Our main breaking news this evening. The suspected gunman who attacked and rammed a vehicle into a synagogue in Michigan where children were at preschool is dead. It's also tonight being reported that emergency responders found what appears to be a large amount of explosives in the back of the vehicle. One security officer was hit by the car, but nobody else was injured. Aerial imagery of the scene, we're looking at it here, shows smoke billowing from the roof of the synagogue, which is believed to have been caused by the vehicle after it crashed. The area of the attack, Temple, Israel, is home to one of the largest Reformed Jewish congregations in America.